Hey everybody, it's Marisa Murgatroyd. I'm really excited to be here, and welcome to all of Danny Eni's audience. I love you guys. I love Danny. He's been a partner of mine for a long time and a good friend, so I'm super excited to be sharing with you everything that I know about creating a personal brand that makes you truly magnetic and unmistakable in the marketplace, so people want to work with you and only you. And I'm going to teach it both in a general sense, but also specifically through how you can use Facebook status updates to really kind of get yourself out there fast right now. So before I begin, let me just tell you a little bit about this Google Hangout situation, and then I've got a video of Danny introducing me because he couldn't be here today, but he did record a video to say hi to you and let you know why he brought me on. So first of all, this is a live streaming Google Hangout on Air, and for those of you who haven't been on a Google Hangout on Air, it depends on you having a good, solid, stable internet connection. So if for whatever reason the audio or the video freezes for a moment, just refresh your browser, and 9 times out of 10, that solves the problem. And if that doesn't solve the problem, don't worry, we're going to post a replay on this same page as soon as the webinar is done. And that said, we hope you're going to stick around because that's going to give us an opportunity to dialogue in the chat box and for me to answer your questions at the end. So I see that we've got a lot of you already in the chat box. If you haven't signed in and said hi yet, go ahead and do that. It's to the right of this video. And just log on with whatever social network you want to, or as a guest, say hi and let us know where you're coming in from. And I already see that there's a lot of people who've said hi. We've got Dina, we've got Janine, we've got Michael, Karen, Mike, Kim, and a bunch of other people too. So Brad, just welcome and let me know where you're coming from because that kind of inspires me to know who's out there and to give my best. All right, so Murray, do you want to let Danny's video play and then we'll dive right into the content of the session.
Hi there, I'm Danny Eni from Firepole Marketing, and I'm putting this video together to introduce my good friend Marisa Murgatroyd, who's presenting her Personal Brand Power webinar to our community of beacons. The reason I'm recording this video instead of just being live on the call is that I happen to be traveling right now to a conference, and depending on how the schedules are working out, I'm either like just getting onto a plane or just getting off of a plane. I'm not in a position to be able to dial in and give Marisa the great introduction that she deserves. So in brief, before I end this video and turn it over to her to blow your minds away with all the amazing things she has to share with you. Marisa and I have known each other for years. We are friends, not in the internet marketing years. I want to introduce you to my friend whose name I don't remember kind of way. We have had a lot of conversations. We have shared food and meals together. We celebrated my birthday together. Not my last one, the one before that when I turned 30 in Portland. She is a wonderful person whose values I completely connect with. We've done a lot of cool things together. She turned me into Obi-Wan Kenobi for the Superhero Summits, which was awesome. And she is one of the world's top personal branding experts. She knows this stuff better than just about anyone that I know, and she is better positioned to teach you really great stuff than just about anyone I know in this space. So buckle up, put all of your attention into what's about to be presented to you. Turn off your cell phones, make sure you're ready to take notes because it's going to be great. And with that, Marisa, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danny, for that introduction. Even though you can't hear me, you're in Obi-Wan Kenobi land. It's kind of appropriate that we turned him to that since he was like a virtual signal sometimes. But welcome to the webinar. So today what we're going to talk about is how to Facebook your way to a lucrative and loved personal brand. So you're going to learn how to use simple Facebook status updates to not just become known in your field, but to become unmistakable, so you can raise your fees and sell more. Plus, how to go about creating a lucrative and loved personal brand, even if you're just getting started. So there's a lot of ground that I want to cover, and I'm just going to dive in because I've got so much to share with you today. And I want to start by saying something that may be controversial, and it's going to fly in the face of everything the experts have told you and everything you've learned up until now about how to make a living online with your knowledge, expertise, and advice. The first thing is, and I say this with a lot of love, trust me, no one really cares about your expertise. Not only do they not care about what you know, whether you're the best at what you do isn't really the deciding factor in whether they choose to work with you or buy your stuff. And second, the thing that's stopping you from creating the business that you see in your mind's eye, actually becoming the go-to expert in your field and providing the lifestyle that you really want for yourself and your family, is not any lack of skill knowledge, training, degrees, or certification. You already have everything that you need to be successful. And third, what really sets you apart from your competition is something else that's far more important than what you know or what you do. And that's what this webinar is all about. So as that sinks in, I want to be clear about one thing. I'm really not trying to say that your expertise or your skill doesn't matter, and I'm not at all implying that all those years that you spent mastering your craft have been wasted. You definitely need to be awesome at what you do to succeed, and I know you are, and I know that's why you're here today. What I am saying is that your expertise is not the most important thing if you want to build a lucrative and loved personal brand. And what led me to this conclusion was my own experience of not being valued for what I knew. Let me tell you a quick story. The day I was born, my dad started mutual funds for my college education. And when I got older, he told me two things. He said, Marisa, you can go to school anywhere in the world that you want as long as you work hard and get good grades. And he also told me that a good college education was my ticket to success in life. My career would just roll out at my feet the day I graduated. And I bought into that dream hook, line, and sinker. I became an overachiever. I had a 4.0 grade point average. I won over 6 different writing and photography contests in high school, and I was a national merit semifinalist. So I actually chose to spend my nights and my weekends devouring books like the true nerd that I am. I read something like 100 books in a single year, and I had this habit of writing down every single word that I didn't know on the back of these bookmarks. Because I thought if I'd learned just one more word, people were going to understand me that much better whenever I communicated my ideas. So the day came when I graduated from the Ivy League. The year was 2000, and the first big internet boom had busted. I applied for job after job after job, and I quickly discovered that pretty much 0 people gave a damn about my knowledge or my degree. I couldn't even get an interview. And you know, remembering that now, I think about the hundreds of other really smart, really gifted people that I meet every single year who are struggling to even get noticed. So let me ask you, have you ever thought that you deserve more recognition and authority? Better clients paying you far more for what you do? Have you ever wondered why your talent and your expertise haven't translated into the kind of success that you were looking for when you first got started? So what's going on? You know, is the world just fundamentally unjust? Of course not. But that doesn't change the fact that history is absolutely full of brilliant people with life-changing ideas, life-changing talents, and life-changing solutions who never got the recognition they deserved. So let me give you an example. Have you ever heard of Nikola Tesla? So this guy was a genius from Croatia, and he invented all kinds of useful things like alternating current, the spark plug, radio communication, and a whole lot more. But Tesla was overshadowed by Thomas Edison, who's a man you've definitely heard of, because Thomas Edison successfully branded himself as the greatest inventor known to man. So Edison even stole Tesla's ideas and claimed them as his own. So in the end, being super smart got this guy nowhere. You know, Tesla died broke and unknown, while Edison became rich and famous, and he's still known as one of the most well-known inventors of all time. So it kind of began to dawn on me that in this new world, the true competitive advantage belongs to leaders and visionaries who can move people to action. And when I unlock their secrets for you today, you're going to discover how you can become the kind of leader, the visionary, the messenger that your audience is not just looking for, but yearning for. You'll discover how you can build a business that has no competition for your ideal client. None. 0. And you'll also discover how you can nurture a repeat client base that's going to pay whatever you ask for your products and services, simply because they believe that you're the only one who can give them what they want and need. And of course, how you can do it with simple Facebook status updates and a whole lot more. So if you want to do all that, it's actually pretty simple. First of all, you've got to understand that there are actually 3 things that are far more important than what you know when it comes to making a massive impact in the world and building a personal brand that's lucrative and loved. So let me know in the chat if you're ready to find out what they are. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue a little bit with my story. So there I was, like Tesla, completely broke, plus I was fresh out of the Ivy League, no job, and living with my dad. And one day he sat me down and he said, kind of seriously, Marisa, I just spent $150,000 on your college education, and you don't have any marketable skills. So I did what any respectable Ivy League grad without any job prospects would do. I ran away and joined the circus. Seriously. actually went and got a job with Cirque du Soleil. And my dad pretty much disowned me. He could, how could he actually tell his friends that his Ivy League daughter had run away to join the circus? But it was at the circus that I realized that these circus performers with no college education knew something that I didn't know. Cirque du Soleil knew that what you create, what you produce, is always more important to your success than your expertise. So what do I actually mean by that? Well, while it's important to Cirque du Soleil that their ribbon dancers are truly great, what's actually more important for their revenue is presenting those skills in the context of a packaged experience that their audience could appreciate. So in this case, it actually takes the form of a show. And at a combined revenue of over $1 billion a year, Cirque du Soleil have become the most successful circus on the planet thanks to the magical shows they create that go way beyond each individual act. They've literally transformed the way people experience the circus and how much they're willing to pay for that experience. So you may be asking yourself, what does the circus have to do with creating a lucrative and loved personal brand? Well, Cirque du Soleil knew that being great at what you do isn't enough. They figured out how to add value by taking expertise and packaging it into something new that their audience can consume and experience. So it's the packaging around the skill and expertise that's made Cirque du Soleil the largest and most successful circus in history. Now, not how good their people are, right? Not how talented their performers are. What they produce is clearly far more valuable to the marketplace than just that raw talent of the guy who spent years perfecting the perfect backflip in his garage, right? So after a few months of fun times at the circus, watching them create and package experiences, I got the urge to do the same. So I headed over to the Royal College of Art in London, a mecca for people who want to create real stuff like art, books, and film. And I told myself that things would change for me if I learned how to create amazing things. I'd get noticed and people would see my true value and pay me what I'm worth. So I spent 2 years in rainy London getting my degree. I did classes in typography, graphic design, filmmaking. I won a few grants and awards. I flew to Brazil and made my first documentary film. And then when my 2 years were up, I moved to Los Angeles and started applying for jobs in the film industry. I had the skills and expertise, I had 2 degrees under my belt, and I'd created some crazy awesome stuff too. So surely a big fat paycheck was on its way to me. But can you guess what happened? Yup, nobody cared about what I'd created. Clearly there was still something else that was missing. There was another piece of the puzzle there to be uncovered. So I longed to be recognized as an authority, celebrated for my talent, and get paid what I was worth. But clearly there was something else that was still more important than what I knew and what I created. So while I set about discovering what it was, I took the only jobs I could find. And on my very first day waiting tables at a restaurant in Topanga, California, the mother of a good friend happened to be having lunch with a friend of hers. So we got to chatting and I let them know I was looking for a job in documentary film. And it turns out her husband had just started a new documentary film project and was looking for a production assistant. 1 week later, I had the job. That one chance encounter with a friend of a friend led to a 7-year career in the film industry, where I eventually worked my way up from production assistant to director. And it came without me ever mentioning my degrees, my smarts, or all the amazing stuff that I'd produced. That's when it became crystal clear to me that the next most important thing to building a lucrative and loved personal brand, after what you know and after what you produce, is who you know and the relationships that you have. So if you want to build a lucrative and loved personal brand, it's about developing real relationships with your tribe and your peers. And I don't know about you, but I'd much rather have 1,000 true fans engaging with me on Facebook in the way that I'm going to show you in just a minute than to be invited as a talking head expert on CNN. So I'm kind of embarrassed because if I only realized earlier that relationships were more important than what I knew and what I produced, maybe I would have spent a little less time studying and a lot more time finding friends and mentors. But no regrets. All of life's experiences, challenges, and struggles provide the bedrock for our future success. But as you can probably guess, we're not finished with the story just yet. So armed with those 3 concepts, what you know, what you produce, and who you know, I got to work. And over the past few years, I've pretty much focused on creating new relationships to build my business, and the business has tripled in size 3 years running. But something else happened that was even more interesting to me and even more relevant to what we're talking about today. So I started to get messages like this. I'm just trying to get a blog together to sell a cookbook, but you're inspiring me to do more. Don't really know what, but your enthusiasm is inspiring me to want to reach for the sky. Thank you. So as amazing as that comment was, it was a little bit weird too, because deep down I still believed that people were following me because of my expertise. But here I was inspiring someone to change, to transform, to aim higher. So then I saw another note on a Facebook group in response to this question. Think about an internet marketer that you admire for whatever reason. What is it that he or she does or knows that you would like to start doing? And someone named Ken that I don't even know and have never even met wrote this. I think Marisa Murgatroyd is my inspiration. I think I could be more like her if only I had the energy. So I'm definitely a people person and fully believe in being genuine and friendly, building relationships with clients and customers, but sadly I can't seem to muster even a fraction of her energy. So did you notice what Ken admired me for? Was it my expertise? No, it wasn't. Ken admired me for my energy, not my ideas, not my smarts, not my expertise, but my energy. So I can only imagine that he wanted more of that in his own life and business. And as a consequence, my stuff really stood out for him. And that's when it hit me. That's when I knew that that was the moment when it all made sense, and I realized that the one thing, the one most important thing of all, if you want to be a leader that inspires, a leader who has a huge impact on the world, and if you want to create a lucrative and loved personal brand, the most important thing of all is who you are and how you make people feel. So over the past years, I've begun to experiment with opening up and being even more vulnerable in my emails and in my videos, and my tribe has responded passionately. And just that made me more than just another branding or marketing expert. I was becoming uniquely, unmistakably me, and that's the most powerful positioning that you can have in business. So it's just so easy to spend decades or even your entire life getting wicked good at your craft, really mastering what you do, going to seminar after seminar, getting certification and PhDs, and it feels like progress. And more often than not, the better you are at what you do, the less you'll feel the need for all that touchy-feely stuff. It's easy to think that people are going to just naturally see how brilliant you are and want to work with you. But if you're struggling to get your message out and get those customers in the door, then you could be hiding behind your knowledge and expertise and forgetting to show who you are in your business. So these are the 4 elements of your personal brand blueprint. And while what you know and what you do, what you create and who you know are definitely important, who you are is the key and the driving factor in all of this. And it's not about being touchy-feely. All that who you are and how you make people feel stuff, they're actually your most valuable business assets. They're actually responsible for up to 80% of people's buying decisions. So in other words, just 20% of the impact that you have and the impression you make is based on what you know. The rest, a full 80%, is all about who you are, who you know, and what you produce. So I'm going to devote the rest of this webinar to showing you specifically how to create a few key aspects of what you create, who you know and who you are, so you can finally stand out and be noticed. So it's important to point out that there's a lot packed inside of each of these 4 areas of your personal brand, and I'm not going to have time to cover absolutely everything. But in the next slide, I'm going to show you some specific examples of how you can use Facebook to powerfully show your audience who you are in a way that inspires people to like and engage with you, to respect you, to connect with you, and finally do business with you, which is why we're all here today. And all using nothing but a few simple status updates, okay? So if that sounds good, let's dive in. So in just a second, I'm going to show you a Facebook status update from video marketing expert Matthew Peters. So this is just a casual post in his personal profile to 1,441 friends, not even his fan page. And within just a few hours, it got 51 likes and over a dozen comments. This is a great example of what it looks like to lead with who you are rather than hiding behind your expertise and hiding behind your business. as well as the kind of response that you get when you step forward, and how to use Facebook status updates to build your personal brand in the marketplace. So the post that you're about to hear definitely makes you feel something. And it's a terrific example of the power of leading with who you are before what you know. So heading to the gym on my motorcycle, my mom bought this bike for my dad new back in 1981 when we lived on a dairy farm in Wisconsin. My dad gave up a lot to go from working in a lab in the city with his college degree to having the lab job and running a dairy farm due to family obligations. 9 years of work on a dairy in the 1980s was probably just about the toughest time for farmers since the Depression era. He was paying 21% interest on his loans and dealing with sick cows, broken machinery, cows calving, planting, harvesting, working from 4:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day. FYI, cows don't take vacations. This motorcycle means much more than transportation to me. For my dad, I believe that stepping away from the farm duties for a few minutes on this motorcycle was his taste of freedom. It was his vacation. I cannot fathom the stress that he woke up to face at 4:30 in the heat and cold and endured every single day. So when people today tell me about their first world problems, that people are not flocking to their business, or they complain about not locking their loan in at 3.5%, I think about growing up on the farm and what my dad stepped up to do, to provide, to sacrifice himself and put his agenda and dreams and life on hold for his family. No comparison. Thank you, Dad. Wow. So let that one sink in for a moment. Powerful, right? So what does this post reveal to you? Does this post show you the kind of man that Matthew is? Yes or no? Let me know what you think in the chat box. So for me, the post tells me that Matthew's healthy. He respects his body because he's on his way to the gym, and that his family is really important to him. He has huge respect for his parents, and he definitely has a solid work ethic. And that's something which resonates with me. Also, his mention of the loan payments at 21% imply that if he makes a commitment, he's going to honor it, no matter the cost. And finally, Matthew seems grounded, like he lives in the real world, knowing what's actually important in life. So this is a guy that I would not only want to do business with, this is a guy that I'd have a beer with. So for me, this gives a great sense of Matthew's values, where he comes from, and what he stands for. Do you agree? And one final question. Does this post make you more or less likely to reach out to Matthew? So all in all, this is a great example of conveying the key elements of your personal brand in compelling status updates that will get massive engagement, attract your ideal customers, and grow your business fast. So as you just saw, the language and the words that you use in your status updates can reveal what you value in life. Do you value serving others, or are you in it purely for self-gain? Your language can reveal if you're fired up about what you do, or if you're just going through the motions. Your words also reveal your underlying beliefs, prejudices, or biases, whether you intend to or not. The words you use can and will inspire people to follow you and ultimately buy from you, or to click away and never look back. So if you've never really thought that much about your words and how you're coming across to others, this can be tricky to really internalize and get right. But here's the thing. We live in a world where anything you say or do can be used either for or against you. And whether you know it or not, a single status update has the power to send you to the big time or end your career. And in case you think I'm exaggerating, listen to this. Last December, PR executive Justine Sacco fired off a quick tweet before she boarded a flight to South Africa. Going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS, just kidding, I'm white. Justine only had a few hundred Twitter followers, but the tweet went viral anyway. During the 12 hours that she was on the plane, totally oblivious to the firestorm she had created, the tweet went viral. Her following spiked, and reporters headed to the airport to greet her on arrival. So as soon as Justine realized what a huge scandal she created with her offhand comment, she deleted the tweet in her account and made a formal apology. But it was too late. She had already lost her job, appeared in videos and headlines across the internet, and even received death threats. One CNN journalist who reported on the story wrapped up his video broadcast with an observation. I worked with Justine for a few years as a reporter, asking her questions about our company, but I never knew this side of her that appeared on Twitter. But I guess that's the point. Until people start to notice, she was relatively safe in obscurity. So let me repeat that. Until people start to notice, she was relatively safe in obscurity. The reason why this is so important, and the reason I bring this up, is because as soon as you step forward as the face and voice of your brand, people are going to start noticing. And the more successful you become, the more people will take notice. And that's a good thing, because that means that you're making a difference with who you are and what you know. It also means that you have to take full responsibility for who you are and what you know. So how do you go about doing this for yourself? How do you reduce all that you are to the size of a tiny status update? The key to creating a lucrative and loved personal brand is to start to become aware of your energy, your feeling tone. In other words, how you naturally come across, how you show up, and how you make people feel. And that, of course, goes way beyond Facebook status updates, but I just wanted to give you a specific example of how this works in practice. So the post that I just read from Matthew Peters, did you get a sense of Matthew's distinct feeling tone when I read this update? Identify your feeling tone, and you'll find that you can make a conscious choice to accentuate that tone and literally become more of who you are, amplifying those unique parts of yourself that really stand out. The parts of you that really and truly differentiate you from everybody else who does what you do. Those parts that resonate with others. So doing this means that you can step forward as the face and voice of your brand and truly lead with who you are in an inspirational way. In a way that actually inspires other people to become more of who they are. So let me now give you an example of how one man found his unique feeling tone. How many of you know the legendary singer-songwriter Leonard Cohen? So Leonard's sometimes called the musical poet and the troubadour of the 20th century. So believe it or not, Leonard Cohen wasn't always Leonard Cohen. When he first got started as a young singer-songwriter, he consciously created a brand around himself and his music that he thought people would like. Music that he thought would sell, and he failed miserably. So he joined a Zen Buddhist monastery to figure out where his life was going and what he needed to change. Musicians tend to do things like that from time to time. And one day he went up to his Zen master Roshi and asked him why he was struggling, why he was unhappy, and why his music career wasn't taking off. So Roshi listened to Leonard's question and then asked to hear his music. So Leonard brought in this little boom box and played him some music. The monk listened thoughtfully, as monks do, for a little while longer. And then he turned to Leonard and said, "Leonard, you should sing sadder." Wow, right? We're all blind to how other people see us. And so Roshi could see what Leonard couldn't. Roshi could see that the true Leonard was someone who's deeply melancholy, someone truly affected by the world. And he could see that it was both his blessing and his curse. Leonard thought that no one would want to hear what he thought was a sad man singing sad songs in sad times. He thought it would just bum people out. But Roshi saw something different. Roshi knew that sadness was the core essence of who Leonard was, the unique feeling tone that was his and his alone. So it just so happened that there were millions of other people in the world who resonated with Leonard's deep poetic sadness, his longing, and his melancholy. So the moment that Leonard let that feeling tone shine through in his work, he began to sing sadder. He pretty much instantly had that lucrative and loved personal brand. So the lesson here is that regardless of who you are, regardless of your traits and characteristics, there are people who are going to resonate with them. Like there are millions of people in the world who resonate with Leonard Cohen's particular brand of sadness. Now, let me give you another example of feeling tone from the world of business and entrepreneurship, and how it can show up in the form of Facebook status updates. So Leela Cosgrove is a successful Australian internet marketer with tattoos running up and down her arms and a blonde gray bob cut with a shock of pink hair. So just this year, legendary internet marketers like Frank Kern and Ryan Dice have actually hired Leela. So what is her feeling tone? Believe it or not, Leela is known and loved for being abrasive. for telling it like it is, and pardoning the expression for having a bit of an FU attitude. So let's take a look at how this feeling tone shows up on Leela's Facebook page. Leela has a public figure fan page on Facebook where she lists her role as monarch, and she describes herself as a minister for propaganda and strategic anarchy. So I help entrepreneurs to double their business in 12 months. It gets better. When I check, the first 2 posts on her Facebook page are this: only idiots spend money advertising for likes. So only Leela can call people idiots and get dozens of likes and positive comments. Her next post is, it's not about how much money you have. It's not even about whether I can help. It's about whether you're a good fit for my business. And if you're not, I don't care how much money you have or how much I could help you. I'm going to reject you. I choose my clients, and I'm super picky. Great marketing tactic, right? Tell people you're going to reject them if they're not a good fit, regardless of how much money they have and whether you can help. So Leela's voice just drips attitude that seems to attract the hardcore, no BS internet marketing crowd in droves. And I'm not at all saying that you should be melancholy like Leonard Cohen or abrasive like Leela Cosgrove. These are extreme examples to show you a point. What I'm saying is to be more of who you are already, even if you think that that's something that nobody would want. So turn up the volume on the feeling tone that permeates everything you do, whether you're aware of it or not. So I'm going to give you one more example before we move on. Business strategist Suzanne Evans has a no-nonsense feeling tone like Leela, but she mixes it up with a spoonful of change the world style inspiration. And it's such a distinctive flavor of kind of get off your ass and make stuff happen writing that really you could strip away all the branding from her emails and remove her signature at the bottom, and you'd still know it came from Suzanne. So can you imagine being that clear about the feeling tone of your personal brand voice? So clear that it carries through everything you say and everything you write. So clear, in fact, that you become not just remarkable, but unmistakable in a marketplace full of voices clamoring for attention. Now, I want you to imagine what could happen if you took that concept and you applied it to Facebook, specifically to a Facebook status update. With Facebook, every single one of us has a golden opportunity that's never existed before to regularly, and I mean daily, talk to thousands of people about your values and your beliefs with the voice that's yours and nobody else's. So when you regularly share key details from your life, people start to feel like they know you. Not the guru or the expert, but the real you. Every time you talk to your audience in this way, it's like you become more unmistakable and more memorable, and in the process, one step closer to a lucrative and loved personal brand. So let's roll up our sleeves and get to it. Now that you're beginning to have a sense of your unique energy and feeling tone, what else do you need to do to put into those status updates of yours to actually spark engagement, to inspire love and devotion from your tribe, and bring in the new customers and the sales? So to help you figure this out, I've created 3 easy-to-follow steps that show you exactly what to post and the right way to post it. Let me give you each step quickly, then I'll dive in and illustrate each one. So step 1 is to make an image post. Step 2 is to kiss the lead, and this one sounds intriguing, I know, and I'll explain it in just a second. And step 3 is the story. So let's dive into how this works in practice. I like to teach with very detailed examples when it comes to this kind of stuff, because I know that the big general advice that most experts give, broad suggestions like incorporate personal stories and share details from your life, those kind of suggestions just aren't really that helpful. If you want to understand what it means to express your personal brand through your posts, then we've got to get into the nuts and bolts here. So let's start by analyzing Matthew Peters' amazing post that I shared with you earlier. Then we'll go into a few more of my favorite examples of establishing your personal brand through Facebook. And remember, there are so many other places to establish your personal brand than Facebook. It's not all about Facebook. I just wanted to teach by example here. So step 1 is that it needs to be an image post. So on Facebook, you got to grab attention fast, and the best way to do that is with an image post. Image posts get 10 times more attention than regular text posts. So what kind of image post should you use? Well, there are 2 rules. Your image must evoke curiosity, while at the same time reinforce your personal brand. So in his post, Matthew used a picture of his dad's motorcycle. which supported the post that he wrote telling the story behind the motorcycle. Looking at the photo, you would never guess the history behind that very ordinary looking bike. But that's exactly the point. He piqued your curiosity. Step 2 is kiss the lead. In anything that you write, there's nothing more important than the first sentence. So think of it like your headline. And you got to pull people in. In journalism lingo, the lead is your opening thought. And the expression is that you got to kiss the lead so people start reading and they just can't stop. So Matthew kisses his lead by sharing with his readers a specific, evocative moment. He flashes back to the past and he takes us with him. He evokes curiosity with a few very specific key details, such as exactly when and where the bike was purchased and under what conditions. For example, Matthew doesn't say the bike was purchased in the 1980s in Wisconsin. Instead, he says, my mom bought this bike for my dad new back in 1981 when we lived on a dairy farm in Wisconsin. Do you see the difference? Story coach and Broadway star Bo Eason always says that the more specific that you are, the more universal you become. And the level of specific detail that Matthew uses here makes all the difference in how he pulls you into his story, because as Matt shares specific details about his dad, you think about your dad. When he shares a specific story from his childhood, you can't help but flash back to your childhood. And that's why by telling stories about your life, you allow people to bypass their inner critic and connect deeply with the emotion that's there for them in their own lives. And by association, connect you with that emotion. So many of my students, they're afraid of being specific. They're afraid that if they're specific, people who don't share their history aren't going to resonate with them. But it's that very specificity that allows people to see you clearly and resonate with you. Otherwise, you're like this broad bio that doesn't say anything at all. So step number 3 is story. The final step is to share a story, an incident or a moment in time with enough specific details that pull in the reader, that keeps them reading, gets them inspired, and even compels them to engage in some way. So in our example, I can't seem to say that word today, in our example, Matthew continues his story by filling his post from beginning to end with more specific details like the exact time that his dad woke up and the exact amount of interest that his dad paid on his loans. And it's these hyper-specific details that allow you to connect with Matthew in a deep way, rather than some vague, I grew up poor in Wisconsin kind of way. Do you see the difference? It's really a profound difference when you start to internalize what I'm saying here today. This is all about showing rather than telling. The more you show the details of your life, the more people see you in their mind's eye and form their own opinions about you. This forms a deep level of connection and trust beyond anything that you can manufacture yourself. So instead of telling us he grew up poor in Wisconsin, where all that really matters is family, he shows us by giving details, characters, events, and memories. And he takes his time in doing it too. His post is relatively long by Facebook standards, 247 words, but people read it from beginning to end because he's showing them a glimpse into his dad's world full of specific details that allow them to form an image in their minds and feel something. So ever notice that no matter how busy we get in our day-to-day lives, we've always got time for a story. All right? So now you may be wondering what Matthew's story had to do with business. Well, on the surface, nothing, which is paradoxically what makes the story really work for him, and here's why. Matthew is a really high-paid business coach. He advises people on creating a lifestyle business based on their expertise. And what this post powerfully does is show the difference between his life and his dad's, and the difference between being in debt and being obliged to work a second job to pay your bills to support your family. And Matthew's life of freedom, which is illustrated by riding his bike to the gym. A big difference between their two worlds, right? So in this one post, Matthew manages to powerfully convey his values and some of the themes of his life. So on the surface, it tells you that Matthew's a homeboy from Wisconsin. It tells you that he grew up poor, but also, and this is even more important, that he never made himself into a victim. And if you dig a little deeper, you get the sense that Matthew is a real family man, which he is, His posts are always full of photos of his beautiful wife and his kids. He's also riding a motorcycle to the gym. So you get the feeling that Matthew's fit, and he likes a good adventure. So you see everything in this post reinforces Matthew's background and gives him massive credibility, not through his expertise, but through his humanity. So reading this post, you get the sense that Matthew is a good man, like a really good, really kind man. Someone that you like and you trust, and someone that you wouldn't mind hanging out with. And let me tell you, if you know Matthew, that's exactly who he is. So did people respond to his post? You bet they did. This one casual post on his personal profile got 53 likes and 12 comments. And finally, the fourth thing that Matthew does is he ends his post in a way that relates back to his audience and to what he does in a way that challenges people to appreciate what they have. So when people tell me about their first world problems, that people are not flocking to their business, or complain about not locking their loan in at 3.5%, I think about growing up on the farm and what my dad stepped up to do to provide, to sacrifice himself and put his agenda and dreams in life on hold for his family. No comparison. Thank you, Dad. So just take a moment and absorb that one more time. You see what Matthew's doing here is he's actually stepping up to lead his tribe, inspiring them to become better and become more. He's challenging them to put aside their gripes and appreciate what they have. Now let me ask you, if you were in the market for a business coach, if you're someone who resonated with this story, would you consider hiring Matthew based on what you know about him? Of course you would, and you would do that without a hint of feeling sold to. So Maureen here in the chat writes, I love the fact that Matthew respects his father and has a good perspective on how so many of us view our issues. You see, he resonated. You get a feeling about who he is. So let me give you another example of this three-step approach to writing a Facebook status update so it really sinks in. This one is from the brand photographer Marshall Wayne, who's one of my absolute favorite people to follow in Facebook, and you're going to see why in just a moment. So Marshall's this master at turning everyday moments of his life into kind of memorable and shareable occasions. And there are several best practices that he uses that are truly remarkable from a personal branding perspective, and something that we can all learn from. So the first thing is that Marshall is constantly featuring his client work on Facebook in a way that instead of being all about how awesome he is, shows how awesome his clients are. Instead of focusing on himself 100% of the time, like most people do, Marshall's constantly giving shout-outs to his clients in a way that makes you want to be his client. Remember that who you know and the relationships you have are the second most important part of personal branding. So regardless of what kind of business you're in, giving public shout-outs to your partners, clients, and customers is a super powerful way to position the awesomeness of your own work while featuring someone other than you. So whether you call it reverse social proof, credibility by association, or stealth positioning, it works. So here's an example of this where Marshall showcases the results of his work for his client, Eric Daniel, in a way that makes it super compelling to want to hire Marshall. So let's dissect what's going on here. First up, you've got step one, the photo, which speaks for itself. I mean, that's an awesome, awesome photo, and you'd expect no less from a photographer. Second, you'll notice how Marshall kisses his lead by sharing an outcome that any man would want. And there's some men on the line here today. Tell me if you'd want this outcome. 258 shares, 409 likes, and 120 friend requests on this image already. Plus, he also got some juicy feedback from women in private messages. So third comes the story. And I'm going to read the rest of his post here before we analyze exactly what he's doing to get so much engagement. So Eric and I are working on a new website for him that's going to blow away what people are used to seeing. In the meantime, since that takes a while, we figured we'd do some quote images for fun. Just over an hour ago, he came to me with this idea. We grabbed a photo we'd done from a photo shoot we did last year in San Diego and added the text we'd seen from a TI quote, "Done." So the reason this simple post is so effective is that Marshall's not only showcasing his work and illustrating the results of his work, he's also sharing some behind-the-scenes information from his photo shoot with Eric Daniel that makes this post seem personal rather than promotional. We all love that behind-the-scenes stuff. Finding out how something was created makes us feel a little bit more in the know. It fulfills our curiosity about other people. Now, a final yet very important piece of personal branding genius that Marshall does to reinforce his work on Facebook is to powerfully model his work. In this case, he uses his post to showcase his spectacular branding photography to the world. Remember how we talked about the 4 parts of your personal brand? Well, what you create is a powerful illustration of what you do for people, and it's amazing how many people forget to model their own work. So Marshall's a brand photographer, and he's constantly creating and posting iconic photographs of himself. Makes sense, right? Every photograph he posts of himself reinforces what he does by showing his passion for his work. Here's one last example that got Marshall 121 likes and 82 comments. Step 1. Of course, we've got an awesome photograph as his image post. He is a photographer after all. Step 2. Marshall's lead builds massive intrigue and massive curiosity. There is an unwritten rule in Wisconsin that you can't visit for longer than a month without shooting something. Well, I've hit that limit. Step 3. Story. Marshall continues his post by sharing the process and philosophy behind his work in a way that's relatable, transparent, and vulnerable. He pulls back the cloak and he allows us to look in. If I'm going to kill something, I'm going to do it in style. In truth, this is a nod to an iconic photo shoot Steve McQueen did for Life magazine. I spent a lot of time thinking about how to capture that iconic essence, that magic that certain people have. Emulating iconic photos helps me reverse engineer that magic. And then finally, there's something important that I want you to notice at the end of the story. Even though I threw my icon engineering system video together in haste, I don't like it as is, I'll redo it soon. It gives insight into what I do. iconengineeringsystem.com. So what you see here is that Marshall manages to promote his icon engineering course here without even seeming to promote it. So instead, you feel drawn in by him. You feel intrigued to learn more, and all without feeling sold to at all. So is this giving you any ideas for how you can model your work in a way that showcases your products and your services without being directly promotional? In other words, how can you showcase your work in a way that seems natural and unobtrusive, that pulls people in rather than pushing them away, so you can sell more while making a difference in people's lives? Are you starting to see the possibility for using Facebook to create deep relationships with your tribe based on who you are rather than what you know? So let me know in the comments box if you've had any ahas so far, and I'll read them out as soon as I start to see them come in. But let me just take a sip of water first. So while I'm waiting for that, I need you to understand something really, really important here. I need you to understand that your business is not your products, it's not your logo. Your business is truly nothing but the gut feeling or the mental image that come to mind when your customers hear your name, land on your website, receive an email from you, or any one of the other million things. So it's a collection of vivid and potent associations in the hearts and minds of your audience that makes them want to connect strongly with you. That's all there is, really. That's why you need to do everything in your power to be the conscious author of the very first impression that you make when you walk into a room. What they say and think about you before they meet you and after you leave the room. This isn't just about Facebook. You got to be your personal brand in real life. So you've got to figure out the feeling tone that you project in everything you do, in every single email you write, every blog you post, every conversation, every video, and on and on and on. Because your personal brand is a consistent impression that you're making day after day. Not just the first impression. Anybody can make a first impression. But the second impression, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, and every single impression you make on people every single day. And this process works no matter who uses it. CEOs, entrepreneurs, authors, speakers, artists, well-known experts, and change agents. They have all used this personal branding process to consciously create a brand that matters to people, to step forward as the face and voice of their brand, to be more of who they are. And it can work for you too. So all you have to do is figure out those handful of unique qualities and attributes that make you who you are in a way that matters to people, and amplify them, and really make a consistent impression that's reinforced over and over again until others can picture you in their mind's eye, describe you, and feel like they can connect with you even if they've never met you before. If you do this, you'll automatically become memorable and irreplaceable, and your audience will have no choice but to take notice. So packaging and marketing yourself as if you already were a brand or an icon is exactly what personal branding is all about. And it's kind of funny how that works. So what does this look like when it all comes together? What does it look like when you have a well-developed personal brand? How do you feel in the presence of someone who has this dialed in, who's got it going on? Well, what I want to do now is give you a few examples that you'll instantly recognize of well-known business leaders with powerful personal brands. So picture in your mind for a second Steve Jobs. Imagine his impeccable, round, almost invisible glasses, his black crew neck shirt tucked into a casual pair of jeans. Now imagine the iPhone 5 or the new MacBook Pro, impossibly thin, minimal, sleek, at the cutting edge of technology and performance. So desirable that you want to be seen with these products. So effective that once you use them, you can't live without them. They literally become part of your everyday life, part of your lifestyle, your identity. Can you imagine any other man who could have created these products? Can you guess what his personal values were? So if I were to take a stab at it, I'd imagine their innovation, simplicity, excellence, beauty. Now picture Oprah Winfrey in your mind for a moment. Picture her perfectly coiffed hair and her wide, infectious smile. Feel the deep, strong inner confidence that she radiates. Imagine her sitting cross-legged on that famous beige couch in a pair of shiny heels in a chic yet modest and professional dress or suit. She doesn't have the trimmest, fittest figure, but she loves herself for who she is, and she loves us for who we are. She's had many looks over the 25 years that she hosted the Oprah Winfrey Show, but what came across over the years went beyond how she looks. Oprah captivates us with her spirit, her energy, and her love. Her unique gift for making people feel seen, understood, and accepted, regardless of how far they've transgressed or how hopeless they may feel. And by projecting this energy year after year and evoking these feelings in her audience, she's become the most trusted and admired woman in America, right? So can anyone guess what Oprah's core values are? I imagine they involve love, acceptance, compassion, self-realization, and humility. So how many of you were able to follow along with me and really picture these two people? Let me know in the chat. Were you able to picture these people in your mind's eye as I described them? Did you actually feel anything when you heard their names and pictured them? So the interesting thing is that I never met Steve and I've never met Oprah, but here I was able to describe them in a way that you could really see in your mind's eye. And even though you probably never met them either, my descriptions tapped into associations that you already had of them. So this is how personal branding perpetuates itself. Spreading like wildfire from one person to the next, you make a deep, lasting impression on someone, then reinforce that impression day after day, and eventually they buy from you. They tell someone about you, and they refer business to you. Now, I know these are big examples, and the only reason I use such famous examples here is that I want to highlight people that all of you would instantly know and recognize. But for now, can you see how Steve Jobs and Oprah consciously shaped every aspect of their business around who they are? Do you see how they modeled their work, the companies they run, and the products they sell? Do you see how their physical appearance supported their message and their brand? And do you see just how memorable each of them are? Now can I ask you, do you think it's a coincidence that each one of these entrepreneurs have built multi-billion-dollar businesses? Celebrity Net Worth estimates that Oprah is worth $2.9 billion, and Jobs was worth $10.2 billion when he died. Now, do you think that their companies, Harpo Productions and Apple, could have scaled to the heights they have without their leaders at the helm? Absolutely not, right? These companies are as valuable as they are precisely because they are so intimately linked with their founders, the person who dreamed them into being. You could even call them personality-based businesses. And your number one job in your personality-based business is to be you. Being more of who you are fundamentally differentiates you in the market and elevates you from company to companion, from expertise or product to passion. It allows you to carve a place in the hearts and minds of your audience, just like our two icons did. So you might be asking, all right, Marisa, if this is so easy, then why doesn't everybody do it? Why isn't everybody stepping forward as the face and voice of their business and brand? So there are three big reasons that I can see and that I hear from my students. And the first one is simple. Most people are kind of modest, and they associate this kind of stuff with being kind of big-headed or egotistical or self-important or selfish. And, you know, we've seen countless celebrities that are being smeared across the tabloids doing really horrible things in the hopes of getting attention. But here's the honest truth, and it's going to go against all common sense, but stick with me here, okay? So the honest truth is that the more you put yourself out there, the less it becomes about you, and the more you become a stand for those who are willing and ready to accept the call to adventure or transformation that you offer. And the thing is, your personal brand isn't really about you. Instead, it's about who you represent, and that's the paradox. A great personal brand is about helping people to see new and better possibilities and futures for themselves. It's about standing for something important and challenging people to travel the path with you. If you dare to do that, you'll allow people to make a clear choice in response to your challenge, whether that's a yes or a no. You'll know you're doing it right when more and more people start to follow you and engage with you. The other way you'll know you're on the right track is when people start to criticize or respond to your challenge with anger or aggression. This simply means that they're not ready to commit to change, and their criticism is a projection of their own fears and insecurities and really have nothing to do with you. And I see here Mitch is saying, yes, it's hard for me to break out of my mold to promote myself. And here's the thing, Mitch, it's not about promoting yourself. It's about being something that other people can feel that inspires them to also be something more. So personal branding is not at all about promoting yourself. It's stepping forward as the face and voice of your brand so people can connect to you, and through connecting to you, connect to your work and what you do for others. So the second reason that people sometimes don't feel comfortable stepping forward as the face and voice of the personal brand is that they feel that they're going to lose touch of who they are or become something that they're not. And I can't blame anyone for feeling this way, since if you look at how successful people are portrayed and stereotyped in the media, from the heartless executive who outsources his entire workforce to India, to like teen starlets who are walking in Beverly Hills with their toy dogs. And what about the stereotype of the artist who's starving because he refused to sell out? These stereotypes suggest that you only have two choices available to you. Either you're broke and authentic, or you're rich and a sellout. And you know what, though? It's not only possible to be both successful and real, but it's easily achievable if you use my personal brand framework. Now, the third biggest reason we don't step forward as the face and voice of our brand is that we don't know how. This process isn't something that comes naturally to most people, as Mitch just said. Sometimes it takes guidance from a pro to figure out the best road to take. And to make it even worse, most of the expensive advice you'll get from the so-called personal branding gurus ultimately boils down to kind of cliched and trite pieces of advice like, be authentic and just be you. And while I do think it's important to be authentic and to be you, I kind of think these statements are not that helpful, and they're even misleading. And the reason why is this. Personal branding is all about identifying and magnifying certain pieces of yourself without changing your values or the essence of who you are, just becoming more of who you are. So at its core, personal branding is about stepping into your role as a messenger and owning the qualities that allow you to lead and make an impact on the world. So let me give you an example. I'm actually kind of shy, and most people don't believe it when they see me leading these webinars and presentations. I don't like to talk about myself, and being the center of attention doesn't really feel like me. Neither did stepping on stage and leading my first 2-day live solo event last October, or most of the things that we've done this year to triple our business from $175,000 a year in 2012 to $500,000 a year in 2013 into what looks like our first $1 million year. So what I've discovered in the process is this. Your message and your brand are bigger than you, but they have to pass through you. And it requires you to step up and amplify the best of who you are, your highest potential, what makes you different in a way that matters to people and resonates with your tribe. Because if people don't believe you, the messenger, then they won't believe your message. If you don't model your work in the way that I've shown you today, or if you're not congruent with the message and brand that you're putting out into the world, then you're probably in the wrong business. And I see that Yasmin writes, yes, I write about being authentic, and I don't want to lose myself in the tidal wave. And you don't have to, because this is what personal branding is about. It's being authentically more of yourself while stepping into kind of your higher potential, your full potential, right? And here's the thing. If you can't be the poster child for your brand, speaking your message day in and day out without getting tired or bored, then you may be in the wrong business, right? Or you're not expressing yourself enough within your current business to be fulfilled. Because when you're excited, when you believe in the words you speak, when you're aligned with your brand and who you really are, people can feel it. It's like it's palpable, it's physical. They get a gut feeling that you're the real deal, the real thing, someone they need to pay attention to. So think back to the last person who truly inspired you to change your life or try something new or different. What was it about them that inspired you? And can you imagine being that person for somebody else? Not in a way that's copying anybody else, but in a way that's authentically you. Now the question is simple. Are you ready to step forward as the face and voice of your business and take responsibility for who you are, the signals you're sending, and the impact that you have on others? Are you ready to show the world who you really are so you can inspire them to be more of who they are simply by being more of who you are? Are you ready to model your work so you can show your audience what's possible when they say yes to the results, the solutions, and the transformation you offer? Are you ready to step into your role of messenger and become the flag bearer? So let me know in the chat box, are you ready? And I'll check back in a moment and see, but let me know in the chat because I want to know. So I can see that some of you, you're excited, you're ready to start, and before you start, there's one last thought that I wanted to leave you with. In just 1 hour, I couldn't cover my entire framework. We've only been able to cover a few things that will work on Facebook. But be honest, that's just a taste of what personal branding can do for you. You know, personal branding goes to how you show up in the real world. Personal branding is how you dress. Personal branding is how you come across on email, on in so many other places. And there's a lot more to creating a personal brand that captivates your audience than I could share with you today. So for example, what specific qualities and attributes of your personality should you draw together in a unique personal brand that people are going to love? What are the best ways to identify and home in on your unique feeling tone? Remember my story about Leonard Cohen? Even he couldn't identify the feeling tone of his work. What made him different? He had to ask somebody else. So you need to know not only what it is, but figure out how to tap into it in a powerful way so your audience not only feels it, but begins to recognize you by that feeling tone. But choose wisely because it's hard to change your mind later without confusing people. So what are your core personal values and beliefs which affect everything you put out into the world and powerfully signal to your audience what you stand for and whether they should trust you? How do you pick the right stories that represent core themes of your life that will matter to your audience? How do you take complete control of your personal appearance so that the first impression that you're sending is the right one when people see you in person, in a photograph, or on a video? And that's just one of the elements of my personal brand framework. There's another two that you need to figure out that are more important than what you know. Things like what's the best way to express all this through your words? You know, through everything that you say and everything that you write, through your presentations like what I'm giving to you now today, through your videos. All of this is referred to as your unique voice. You know, so do you have signature words and phrases and sound bites and mottos that you use on a regular basis so people can recognize you even if they don't know it's you speaking? You know, how do you incorporate all this into your personal brand assets? You know, everything you create and produce, from your bio and your business card to your website, your books, and your products. You know, there are tricks that you need to know, just like what I showed you on Facebook, to make sure that you're creating a consistent impression everywhere you go. And I'm looking in the chat, and I see Yasmin says, yes, I'm ready to show me to the world. Woot! Awesome, Yasmin. I love your enthusiasm. And I don't even have time to go into the third and last one, which is who you know. But just know that all of these elements join together to form your personal brand, the brand of you, and each and every one of them play a critical role in shaping how your audience perceives and reacts to you. Each one of these elements can support or undermine your message, and all these signals work together to attract or repel your audience. So because there's so much more that I need to teach you about this, I've created a community called Personal Brand Power, where through a carefully structured training program, I'm teaching people to step forward as messengers and to build a tribe around them. So with your permission, I'd like to take just 3 to 5 minutes to tell you about how it works and how you can join if you're ready to build your tribe and transform your business by tapping into the power of you. And then right after that, I'm going to move on to Q&A because I want to answer any and all questions that you've got about personal branding, specifically about how to use it to build your tribe and transform your business. So make sure you ask your questions so I can get to them. So when you join us in Personal Brand Power, you're going to receive access to 5 video training modules that I've created to teach you everything that you need to know about how to find your personal brand and express it through everything you do. So here's what you're going to learn. In Module 1, your personal brand blueprint, you're going to learn about the #1 trap people who are insanely good at what they do often fall into when it comes to personal branding and how to avoid it. You're going to discover the very same secret of amplification used by superstars like Oprah, Tony Robbins, and Richard Branson, which allows you to accentuate and amplify the best of who you are and attract fans like a magnet. You're going to master the formula for uncovering your superpower, the one unique and amazing quality that you and only you possess, and the one that will set you apart from everybody else in your market. Then in Module 2, the secret life of your personal brand, you're going to master the tiny but super important signals that cause your prospects to form an opinion about you. And you're going to use those signals to instantly capture their hearts and minds. You're going to use my powerful exercises to become laser focused and strategic about how you project yourself to your prospects. And you'll harness the power of the why and learn the reason why it's the cornerstone of your personal branding success. Session 3 is all about tapping into your unique voice. You'll learn to take all the unique qualities that make you who you are and use them to create a unique personal brand voice that your fans will recognize from a mile away. You'll also discover your signature words, and I'll show you the ones that will work like magic to bring you all the fans and customers you can handle. Plus, you'll learn how to harness the power of your values and beliefs to craft your superhero story, your bio, along with the mottos and slogans and phrases that you're going to use to share your brand with the world. In Session 4, you're going to see how to capitalize on the 3 to 7 seconds that your average visitor gives so they stick around. You're going to master the art of visual branding by sending the right visual signals using 3 incredibly potent elements, and how to leverage social media and email in a way that reinforces your personal brand to your target audience and allows you to stand above all the noise. So my proven blueprint to package up all that brilliance of yours into a signature book, product, or training. Then in Module 5, Welcome to the Brand of We, you're going to learn the secrets of bringing new people into your world and expertly nurturing those who have already embraced your brand. You know, how to keep your tribe super engaged and build a deeper level of community, not just between you and your audience, but also with each other. You're going to discover how to earn more money and create deeper customer relationships without having to constantly add more customers. And you'll require the skills to act as your own personal brand ambassador every moment of every day to build those deep and lucrative customer relationships with your existing customers to ensure that they come back to you again and again. So the usual price for this is $697, but because you came out to this training, I'm going to give access to this program for a one-time investment of $497, or I think it's 3 payments of $197 to really inspire you to get started. And it costs $500 an hour to work with me privately, so $497 is a really good deal to figure out who are you and how do you need to get out there in the world to step forward as a face and voice of your brand instead of hiding behind your business, hiding behind your website, hiding behind your expertise. So just click the orange button below and you're going to go to the Personal Brand Power webpage. When you get there, you're going to see a big green Get Started button. Just click that and I'd love to work with you. So now let me share with you the best part. When you invest today, in addition to this practical and in-depth personal brand training, you're also going to get 5 valuable bonuses to help you on your journey to a lucrative and loved personal brand. And the very first bonus is complimentary access to the private Facebook group, only for Personal Brand Power students and alumni. So this is really where you can step forward and try to experiment with who you are as a brand, where you can reach out for an accountability partner, where you can start to share yourself with the world. The second bonus, valued at $97, is our famous Personal Brand Showcase. So we've spent hours scouring the internet for really great examples of people just like you stepping forward as the face and voice of their brand. And we found 6 amazing case studies that we've collected together into a Personal Brand Showcase in the membership area. So we dissect each one, we show you what they're doing, which aspects of their personal brand they chose to accentuate, and we give you the key takeaways for each. So this is meant to be a huge inspiration for you as you begin to make your way with personal branding. Your third bonus, valued at $97, is a 90-minute video with Ariana Hall. So Ariana is the world's leading coach on self-expression and authenticity. This session is called 3 Seconds to Engage Your Audience, and it's never been released outside of this program. She helps you work through any unconscious blocks or tics that you've got with your self-expression and shows you where to focus your energy so your audience gets the most out of what you're saying. So I coached with Ariana privately for years so I could actually step up and do what I'm doing today. I mean, it took work for me to be here today kind of sharing myself like this. I didn't do it right away. I mean, it took time. And your fourth bonus, valued at $97, is from Brad Axelrad. So Brad's a founding member of the Association of Transformational Leaders, and it's also a never-before-released 90-minute session for my Message to Money live event, and it's called Face Your Dragon, Share Your Message. So people in the audience literally were in tears and had major breakthroughs during this session, as Brad guided them into their fears and really helped them get over the fears that were getting in the way of sharing their message with the world. So as a semi-pro motocross racer, Brad knows a thing or two about busting through enormous amounts of fear. Now your fifth bonus is a powerful set of audio vocal exercises and warm-ups that I use. So this is from an international authority on vocal empowerment, Ariella Forstein. Because here's the thing, a lot of people neglect their voice and forget to warm up before they speak or do a presentation like this. And as a result, their performance, it's not as powerful as it could have been. So these are exercises to make sure that you've got the chops, to really carry your brand voice and tell your brand story. So let me recap what you're going to get here. You're getting the full personal brand power training, over 10 hours of in-depth video training to help you create your very own lucrative and loved personal brand, plus 5 bonuses that are worth over $350 in extra value. Access to our private Facebook group, the Personal Brand Showcase, Ariana Hall's 3 Seconds to Engage Your Audience training, Brad Axelrod's never-before-released session on facing your dragons and sharing your message, and the Ariella Approach vocal exercises and warm-ups. So that's $357 worth of extra values, and we're not done yet. So when you invest live on the call today, you're also going to get this extra special bonus that I saved for last because it's the most powerful bonus of all, and it's only available live on this call. So if you're listening on the replay, I'm sorry it's too late to grab this. So what this bonus gift is that you can send one aspect of your personal brand to me for review, whether that's your logo, your bio, your story, or your Facebook page. And I'm going to look it over and record detailed audio feedback just for you, so you have an extra set of eyes, a professional perspective on one key element of your personal brand. Because personal branding is kind of like using a plant cutting to grow a new plant. If you've got that one snippet, that one little piece that really works, that captures the essence of who you are, then you can replicate that out into everything you do. So I'd love to help you create that one piece if you take action while we're live on the call. So that makes the total of the bonuses that you're going to get in the call, and I'm not very good at math, but I think it's about $454. So finally, when you invest $497 today, I want you to know that you're doing so with 100% security because you're covered by our no questions asked 30-day money-back guarantee. If you take the time to go through our course and you decide that you don't like it, then return it at any stage within 30 days, and our team will arrange a full refund. So before you make the decision to work with me, I just wanted to share with you what a couple of my personal brand power students had to say. So the first one is Marianne Einerson, and she said, I've tried 4 different web design companies at this point, eating up more than 2 years in the last dribbles of savings. I feel that I've tried everything, but letting my brand reflect more of me. I'm now bringing more of me into the website, and it feels great. And then there's my student Emily Filoramo, who said, I spent a significant 5-figure sum in masterminds with other gurus before I found Marisa. Her low-ticket programs, less than $500, deliver more value and go deeper than masterminds costing $10,000, $15,000. If I just spent $1,000 with Marisa in the first place, I would have gotten to where I am today faster and with a lot more money in my bank account. She goes deep in helping you stand out as the leader. I used to sound like every other life and health coach, and now I get noticed because I'm being bold and edgy with who I am and what I have to offer. I'm now getting noticed by other personal development gurus because of my story and because of my brand. People email me to say how powerful they think my website is. My following is growing fast because of my message. So I think that you'll agree that it's time for you to finally step out of the shadows and into the spotlight by building a personal brand that will lift you above the white noise and into that 1% of entrepreneurs who get the attention and the clients and the exposure and the coverage and the book deals and the stages and the success. You know, the 1% of entrepreneurs who become the leaders that we know and love, the leaders who change the world. And you don't have to go it alone. For just $497, join us in this in-depth training that not only shows you the path, but will gather a community of people around you who have all stepped forward as the face and voice of their brands, and who can support and uplift you in creating a business that you love, a business that expresses who you are, and a business that makes a positive impact on those around you. So if all this sounds good, then click the big orange button below this video or go to personalbrandpower.me/go and get started. So remember that you have until the end of this webinar to get the fast action bonus where I review one key element of your personal brand. All right, so it's time to go over to the Q&A and answer your questions about personal branding and about the Personal Brand Power program. So let's see. I want to, and I've been trying to get through all the lines, so let me know if you've got a question, okay? Let me know if you've got a question right now. And I see some of the questions here. One's from Yasmin. Yasmin says, I'm loving this whole presentation because it's embracing what I've been trying to promote. But sometimes I wonder if I'm being egotistical to speak up against the grain. Here's the thing, Yasmin. The world is changed by individuals. You know, the world is changed by people who are willing to speak up, whether it's a Martin Luther King or a Gandhi, or whether it's just an actress who wants to devote herself to causes. So it's not at all egotistical to become a leader, because there are followers and there are leaders. And if you're ready to be a leader and to make a bigger impact, then there's nothing egotistical about that. There really isn't anything egotistical. And I wanted to welcome a few people to the course who signed up while we're live on the call, which is awesome because you're going to get the first, that bonus with me of the one-on-one call. I want to welcome Alec, Suze, and Aaron. So welcome Alec, Suze, and Aaron to Personal Brand Power. I look forward to working with you to help you kind of really refine that one personal branding aspect, okay? All right, so moving up through the chat, and I want to see, and make sure you leave a question if you've got one here. So really, about Mitch, Mitch was saying that it's hard for me to break out of the mold to promote myself. So here's the thing, and I think that this is the biggest misconception of personal branding that I see all the time. People think personal branding is about promoting themselves. It's about me, 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 me. I'm going to be rich and famous. And of course there's like personal brands for celebrities, but in business, personal branding is about, becoming someone that people can relate to and connect with, to become almost more than who you are, but by amplifying the best aspects of who you are. And the reason why that's so important, becoming more of who you are, is because if you're not, people won't necessarily notice you or see you. I mean, there are probably thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who do what you do, right? But there's only one you. And the way that you differentiate yourself is not by saying, well, I'm a life coach, or I'm an author, but by projecting more of who you are in your work. And that moves people, it inspires people, it allows them to connect not just with you, but more with who they are. It opens up a deeper level of expression and transformation. So I really want to reframe that because I think people always have a huge misunderstanding about what personal branding is, and I really want you to know that that's not what it is. Personal branding is about being a leader who can inspire lots of other people. Yes, you do have to think about things like how are you dressed, how are you showing up on camera, what's the feeling tone of your work, like how do you naturally affect people, how do they feel when they interact with you, how are you putting yourself out there through your website and through all the other different aspects of your brand. And I see, just scrolling up through the chat, I see another question here from Peter, who asks, how do I avoid feeling overwhelmed by all the different ways to communicate my personal brand? I think the main reason to avoid feeling overwhelmed, and it's something that I teach in Personal Brand Power through the Personal Brand Blueprint, is to really identify what are the core elements of your personal brand that really move the needle and make the difference for your business. So nobody can be everywhere and do everything, but you can actually make the impression of being everywhere by choosing a few select places that you really want to shine. So one of the things that I do in Personal Brand Power is walk you through an exercise to teach you how do you choose those aspects of who you are, how do you choose between all these different elements, what you want to magnify and amplify so people can really, can really see more about who you are. And I see another question here from Marla about how is your program structured? So the program's structured through, 5 different training modules that's got several videos in each module, along with downloadable audios and videos and worksheets and transcripts. And basically, I help you identify first and foremost, what you're awesome at, what your superpowers, what you're unique at, and then figure out, looking at my personal brand blueprint, what are the areas that you should be focused on? Because you shouldn't follow anybody else's roadmap to success. You should follow your roadmap to success, right? And that's what's super important. And so once you find, the areas that you're going to choose to accentuate, then we dive deep into all of those different areas of who you are, what you do and what you know, who you know, and what you create. And so I teach you how to bring out more of your personal brand in each of these areas, and all the things you create, from your books and your blog posts and your emails, to your photos, to how you dress, to the videos that you create. So that's really how the course is structured. And I wanted to take a moment to welcome Karen into the program. So welcome, Karen. And I see another comment from Bill, who says, I'm fascinated by the framework that you showed. How do I choose to work on what to work on first? So like I said, I do lead you through a process for identifying which are the most important elements for you, how to identify the most important elements for you. But the place to start first is with who you are. And a lot of times it's the nonverbal signals that we send out about who we are, right? And it's not always just like the Facebook posts and things like that, but it's how people feel in our presence. I was just hiring a bunch of business coaches to join my Live Your Message team, and I see one of them on the line here. And there were a couple of coaches who were really good at who they were, but I didn't feel uplifted and positive when I was on the line with them. It's like they weren't enthusiastic. They didn't really care. And because of that, I didn't bring them onto my team, even though they had the qualifications to be an awesome business coach. So a lot of times it's the nonverbal signals that really make you stand out, not just the verbal signals. So I see that Lindsay has a question, which is, does this work on all social media as well as it works on Facebook? Yes. And beyond social media, this works in emails, this works in talks and trainings and presentations. And there are very specific tips, by the way, for each kind of modality or platform that you use. So it's not like a one-size-fits-all. And I can show you, I do in the course, specific techniques for each kind of platform. And Mitch says, how do you deal with people who try to tell you that your presentation style is too informal or something else? I thought I was trying to show my personality. So Mitch, that person could have been not in your audience. And I don't know what your industry or niche is, because you do have to choose a personal brand that supports, the industry or niche that you're in. If you're in hardcore corporate and you show up in in grunge, it's not going to necessarily work. And you start talking about, kissing your girlfriend. I mean, that's not necessarily going to work. There's a level of being appropriate, and appropriate to your audience and appropriate to your market, while still revealing more of who you are. So if someone doesn't like your presentation style, don't worry about it. Like, there are people who don't like my presentation style, or Danny's presentation style, or Don Crowther's presentation style. So you attract the people who resonate with you, and don't be afraid to turn a few people off in order to do it. That's totally, totally okay. And I see that I just wanted to remind you that if you are considering signing up, I think we're going to be ending pretty soon, within the next 5-10 minutes. So just a reminder that you've gotten to the end of this call to sign up and grab your personal brand review with me. So that's a pretty big bonus, because I'm going to help you look at one aspect of your personal brand and help you kind of make that one truly awesome. So you've got a little bit of a roadmap that you can then extend out to other people. And I see that Sunny has just joined, so congratulations, Sunny. Welcome to Personal Brand Power, and you've got your personal brand review with me. So next question here, and it's from Carrie, who says that all my budget's going into my website right now. Do you recommend that I finish my website and then I start your program, or that I do your program first? So here's the thing. One thing that I notice is that most people who invest in websites don't know how to do a website in a way that really kind of conveys who they are. So it's like they're hiding behind their website. They haven't identified what makes them different, what makes them stand out. And if you've got 3 to 7 seconds to capture someone's attention online and you don't, well, then it doesn't matter how good your website is. So identifying your personal brand and the feeling that you want your website to have is really important, and doing it sooner before you invest a lot of money in things like websites is important too, because that way you can come across as who you are and create the right impression. I can't tell you how many times I've had people who are like a spiritual field and they've got a website that makes them feel like a used car salesman or someone in business that's undermining their credibility with the kind of photos and things that they share. So that's really kind of an important thing to understand how you want to come across. All right, look, I see another question, and this one's from Juliana, who says, I've got several different fields I work in. Should I integrate everything under one personal brand, or? So there's a difference between a personal brand and a business brand. So a personal brand kind of transcends any particular one thing that you do and is really how you are across all of your different businesses. So you might have different websites for different businesses. I know that I do. But who I am and how I show up is the through line that unites all of those things. And that's how you get someone who might be interested in hiring you in one way, who ends up hiring you like in another way, like who's following you for one reason, and then they find out, oh my God, you do this too. But they're different things, like a business brand and a personal brand. So, like I said, your personal brand kind of transcends all of that, and it's who you want to be for your audience, regardless of what business we're talking about, or what niche we're talking about, or what field that we're talking about. And that's why I think personal branding is so important, because some people who change fields in their life don't focus on their personal brand, so then they don't really, here's the thing, it's like they get known for a topic or an industry or a particular kind of area, and rather than getting known for who they are. And when you get known for who you are first, and you build an audience around who you are and how you make them feel, then you can carry that audience in to everything else that you do. And that's really awesome when you carry your audience through from business to business as you grow and evolve through your career. And that's what personal branding does. It allows you to, change your mind later in terms of what you do, but because people are following you, not necessarily just your topic, they're willing to go with you. And I know I've done that in my business, and it's been awesome. So I see that Patty has just signed up for Personal Brand Power, so welcome, Patty. And we are getting to the very end of the questions here that I can see. So if you want to sign up and you want to grab that bonus, make sure you take a moment to do that now. Just go to personalbrandpower.com/go. So next question is from Jen, who says, currently I sell my expertise by the hour. How will creating a personal brand help me make the move from selling time to selling who I am? So when you're selling yourself by the hour, sometimes it's about selling a commodity. You're selling what you do, rather than selling the unique experience that you're creating for someone through the work that you're doing together. So as you create a personal brand, you're not just positioning, okay, in this hour-long session we're going to do this, this, and this. You're also positioning the results that you've gotten for people, the way you show up, the way that you can make them feel that nobody else can make them feel. And that's a whole lot more valuable than just, say, a business coaching session. So that personal branding allows them to choose to work with you. They just say, I actually had someone on the phone the other day just say, you're on my vision board because I feel in my heart, in my gut, that you're the person who can help me get to the next level. Now, that doesn't come because of any particular program or product that I'm offering. It comes through all of the interactions that I've had with that person across everything I do, from my webinars and the emails I send and the blogs that I send and the summits that I lead and the products that I've got, that she starts to feel that way. All right, so another question here from Fifi, who says, I'm an artist and I'm struggling with deciding whether I should brand myself as my name or whether I should use a company's name. What do you suggest? A personal brand? So Fifi, I would suggest a personal brand for an artist, because if you look at people like Andy Warhol wasn't the most amazing artist in the world, but he was an amazing personal brand. If you look at Picasso, Van Gogh, and then of course more contemporary artists like Nan Goldman, they've all built a personal brand because people buy your artwork, not just because it looks cool, but they buy the story behind it. So a lot of the most famous artists, people will buy any work of art of theirs just to have like a Picasso in their house. And of course that's an extreme example, right? It's not like you're going to be a Picasso. But people hang a work of art in their wall and they want to know who the person is that painted that. They want to know the story behind it. They want to feel connected to you. So unless you're having an art agency with a lot of different artists, I would recommend that you brand you. And here's one more question from Sebastian, and let me take a sip of water. Who says, and this is the last question that I can see, so remember, if you want to sign up, this is the time to do it. It says, I'm just starting out in my field. Can personal brand power work for me? So that's a great question, Sebastian. Here's the thing. if you're getting started, I guess that not a lot of people know who you are. And there's probably a lot of other people who are further along who already have more clients than you and who really, you know, are the ones that are getting the attention right now. So if you go out and you brand yourself in addition to what you do, then I think that that's really important because that's going to allow you to differentiate yourself in the market much more quickly from everybody else in your field who maybe is already more well-known than you. So starting out and being able to know this is why I'm in business and this is why I'm doing this is super important because that's the way you differentiate yourself, not just today but over the long term, and build a business that you can grow and evolve into and shift with as you go. All right? Oh, okay. So it looks like I've got another question here from Janine, who said, I've got a website on an arts-related topic. Some people are writing for me. Any advice on how to incorporate my personal brand into that? So even if you have a larger business, I've got one with Live Your Message. We've got other business coaches under me. I've got 10, 20 people on our team. We still have brand, like our people on our team still step forward. But I'm still, it's Live Your Message with Marisa Murgatroyd. So you are the face and voice of that business, even if you've got other people writing for you. So if you want to become, a website and you're blogging too, that really, really helps. You can blog for, you can blog and you can put out your personal brand. If you've got people ghostwriting for you and you're not doing the writing yourself, but they're writing as you, then it's even more important to identify your personal brand because then you can convey to them how you want them to represent you. You can say, here are a list of my signature words. Here are my mottos. Here's my feeling tone. Here are the people that I admire. Here's who I am and here's who I'm not. So what they are writing sounds more authentically and congruently you. And that doesn't happen, if you just kind of, that doesn't happen unless you take the time to define yourself. And it's not that easy sometimes to define yourself and to know what areas of who you are that you need to define and how to do it. But I've got a lot of exercises throughout this program around every aspect of your personal brand. I have exercises around identifying your personal style, exercises around identifying your tone of voice, exercises around how you want to show up for your audience, exercises around all of these different things of how you write. How do you write more as who you are, even if you're not comfortable writing? And that's when you start to kind of pull it all together into a brand that's consistent enough to become recognizable. All right, cool. So I think we're at the end of our questions. Thank you so much for coming out. And I hope you enjoyed this as much as I've enjoyed teaching it. And just a reminder that, and I see that Yasmin says, you're right, Marisa's stories are important. Tom's shoes. So awesome. So thank you so much for coming out and thanks for your questions. And Mitch and Janine and Yasmin, you guys have been, and Lindsay have been particularly awesome and engaged. So thank you all for coming out. And I see it's 1:35 p.m. Pacific right now. So what I'm going to do is give you until 2 to sign up because I know sometimes people don't want to miss the Q&A so they don't go run and sign up and still grab that one personal brand review with me. So I will see you and in the program. So for everybody who signed up, really looking forward to seeing you over on the Facebook group and in the membership site. And remember that who you are is more important than what you know. It's not egotistical, it's not selfish, it's about connection. It's really about stepping forward as the face and voice of your brand so you can lead, so you can open that space for transformation, so you can allow people to connect with what you do and what you know in a much deeper, more powerful way. So thank you so much. Go out there and live your message. Bye, everybody.